What a great summit this has been. Thanks everyone for joining. We have Anu Jain from JP Morgan Chase to talk about this world of data engineering. Before we get too deep into it, Anu is a bit of a legend in this world. She has worked into multiple sectors. I'll let Anu introduce herself in her own words.
Thanks, Avinash. I'm really excited to end this summit and really looking forward to spend next 30 minutes with you.
Awesome. Thanks, Anu, for doing this again. Uh, let's dive right in this. Tell us a little bit about your role and your team at JP Morgan, Anu.
Uh, so, Avinash, I am, as you said, my name is Anu Jain, and I am the head of data technology for JP Morgan's Chase Consumer and Community Bank. As you know, JP Morgan has multiple lines of business, and Chase is the retail side of the banking side of the JP Morgan. And my team is focused on leading the whole data and analytics portfolio of products which drive our consumer and community bank. Specifically, if you look at it, my team heads the responsibility of all the data platforms, the data engineering, data governance. Being a regulated industry, it's really important for us from a data governance, from regulatory, from privacy, ethics, as well as we are undergoing a massive transformation right now in our cloud modernization journey.
Thanks, Anu, for sharing that. And before we dive too deep into this, you have been incredibly lucky to be at this place at multiple different industries as well. You were at Target, you were at Optum. How does life in Chase differ from what are similarities, what are differences when you work at healthcare, when you work in retail? Can you touch a little bit upon that?
Yeah. So I think before I even talk about the industry, like I have been in the data space for over 20 plus years. In fact, I'm super passionate about data, and as you can see, with every industry, there are a lot of similarities, and data plays a pivotal role in each of these industries, whether it's retail, healthcare, and now in the financial industry. Customer being the center, customer being the core. So I started my career. In fact, my significant part of my career has been at Target, where in today's day and age, customer centricity and having that omni-channel experience is super important. So where I would say similarities between all three is customer. Customer is your center and customer is your core, and data is critical to it. So having the intersection of data to drive the core customer omni-channel experience was super important. That's where they all have very similar kind of data landscape. Where I would say retail and retail differs a little bit more than I would say healthcare is a regulatory part of it. So JP Morgan has taught me actually really thinking through how do you think from a regulated industry, and regulated industry brings its own, I would say, challenges as well as opportunities on how you think about governance, where data engineering plays a critical role. How do you think about metadata? How you think about lineage? How do you think about, I know other industries also have to think about access controls, but the access controls become way more, I would say, critical in financial industry. When we think about privacy, both healthcare as well as financial sector has very similar requirements. So when you think about HIPAA versus GBPA and other regulations, both apply there. So any data professional has to think through from all of these intersections and have to think about during their data engineering, how do they model the data, how do they govern the data, how do they control the data.
You're so absolutely spot on that there are fundamental first principle problems which are there in every industry, and then there is the flavor of each of this industry which makes it unique and challenging. Uh, from your vantage point, Anu, how does what are key elements of your data strategy today? I'm sure you have a long list of projects and initiatives that people want from your teams. What are key things that you are excited about? What are key things that are on your roadmap?
So, as I said, we are going through a massive transformation today, massive transformation of going to the cloud. As you know, the pace at which this industry is moving is extremely high, especially in the data space. The technology evolution is going at a much rapid pace compared to, I would say, 10 years back, because AI ML is becoming the core of every business on how we run it. Um, with saying that, for us, it's really important how we think about that transformation going to cloud, especially when we think about data discovery. So, if you think there are multiple themes in which our strategy is focused on, one of the core strategy for us is how do we take everything to cloud and run our end-to-end data ecosystem in the cloud. With that, it means that it starts from a few areas. One is the metadata. As the data goes to cloud, how do we ensure that every data set is registered? We have the complete metadata. And based on that metadata, we are able to not only discover the data, make the life of both analyst and scientist much easier than it has been in the past, but also um, leverage that metadata for managing our data better. Like I said, in a regulated industry, it's really important for us to think about data governance and controls. And with that comes a responsibility of ensuring that our controls are embedded in the platform in itself. So, how do you think about engineering in the way that you use the metadata for managing the data? So that's the core of our data strategy, is ensuring that we have end-to-end metadata. We are able to scale how we integrate the data using the metadata. And then definitely the core is the data is published once and consumed anywhere and everywhere.
That's very interesting. I think if you think about the underlying things in there, there is a huge amounts of automation that is happening with the metadata to make life easier for the rest of the data pipelining steps as they were. But there is also, I think, this element of how do you empower your business users, or how do you make your business users collaborate with people who understand data systems, people who understand data, and people who understand data systems to sort of collaborate with them. How is that playing out in your world?
So collaboration is important. We are all living in this world of social collaboration, isn't it? Whether it's personal life or professional life. Um, so we have built a data marketplace, and our data marketplace has a full all our data sets or data products are published on the marketplace, which are both internal and external. So not only you can collaborate on internal data products, but also can collaborate on the external data products, and then you further collaborate on the work itself. So think about, as a data engineer, your journey starts by identifying the data, uh, accessing the data. That's where they start on the marketplace. And from the marketplace, they are able to see not only the metadata of it, but also the quality of the data, so that they can make the right decisions on what data product they can use for what purpose. They can request access to the data from the marketplace, and then later they can collaborate, which is still a journey for us, is they can even collaborate on their insights by publishing it back, so that other data scientists and engineers can also reuse and understand which products are better for what purpose. And similar journey we are going to go with our feature engineering. So data engineering and feature engineering go hand in hand. So the same way the data marketplace is for data products, how do you extend it for features?
That's very interesting. I think in some way there is this unification that is problems that we solved in the world of data and analytics 10 years back. They are sort of getting resurfaced in the world of AI. We just call them with slightly different names. Uh, how are you seeing that both of these trains converging with the data engineering side of the house, the AI engineering side of the house? How do you see that happening?
You are 100% correct, Avinash. If you think about it, these are all old concepts. The concepts are similar. It's just the techniques are differing. And in fact, I would say the foundational aspects are still the same. Just to give you an example, uh, if you think about it, in data engineering, we call them attributes and derived definitions, isn't it?
Yeah.
There is nothing but features, future. So it's how, where do you define it? How do you store it? What technique do you use to engineer them? And then ultimately, where are you consuming them? Maybe those attributes and definition attributes and derived attributes or aggregations or summaries, you're using them in your reports, and the features, a little bit different flavor of those, you are leveraging them in your models. So I do see a lot of them are converging. We have to just ensure that how do we bring that ecosystem together, by ensuring that you have the right ownership on those, you have the right governance to define. Because if your definition varies, then your report can have a very different definition of the same attribute versus a feature being used in the model. So, organizations such as ours, for us, it's important to have some sort of, I would say, workflow or governance around the definition, collaboration, ownership. And then from a platform perspective, how do you make it easy for your data engineers and AI ML engineers to find and, I would say, engineer those and then serve those? So both play a role. Your process to develop them, process to publish them, and I'm using process very loosely, but it's more of an engineering. Okay, how do you make sure that every layer is interconnected, and then your platforms are extended where your data engineering gets blended into AI ML engineering?
Do you foresee a utopian world in the next few years where you have the same data asset that is
Mhm.
used by, published by a team, but the same data asset is used by an operational person to say, okay, to make an operating decision on something, used by analytics to figure out how is the business doing, and then used by AI to sort of come up with a future-looking insight. But all of this today, there is a lot of disconnection between each of these things. Do you see all of these converging into one product, doing all of this, and people bringing out their own way of consuming that insight or consuming that data element?
So I think, Avinash, we are not too far from some of the foundational pieces. Think about
Mhm,
it. I'll use streaming as an example. Okay, just to uh, share my point on your
mhm,
question. So
mhm,
think about streaming. The data is published once from source systems, isn't it? Doesn't
mhm.
matter at the time of publishing what it is going to be consumed for. You do want to make sure that the data is only published once from the source systems. So as it's evented out in a stream, within the stream, you can use fraudulent activity check on top of the stream for any operation or even alerting for that context, isn't it?
Mhm.
Same data used for alerting or fraud checks in an operational way. Your sync could be in your lake where you are using the same data for analytical purposes. Okay. Now, as I said, we are going to converge on how do we do our data engineering and our AI ML engineering. So the same data product, when it lands into your lake, how do you do the engineering on top of it? And the attribute definition is same. Now your serving could be different. And I'm using serving again, very common generic way to bring my point, because your consumption could be in the report for that attribute, or your consumption as a way of feature could be into your model. So integration into the end consumption product will vary, but your core life cycle, the core end-to-end value chain or the data when it moves is still the same. Now, the area where I think the industry has to little bit evolve to is today there are multiple different consumption products. For example, several technology solutions are investing more into AI ML kind of model development, and traditional there have been lot which have been into the warehousing kind of the world or reporting kind of the world. So as organizations have multiple technology vendors or technology solutions, where we have to invest and think through is where the open standards. So think about open table formats such as Iceberg or Delta and Hoodie, how they will evolve in future to create more interoperability between the data as the data is consumed in different ecosystems, which is really important for us, that how the vendors are investing and ensuring on common standards for interoperability, so that vocabulary is same, the interoperability is same, your payloads uh, can be interoperated for multiple different purposes, but it's the same data.
I think you're absolutely on point on that. I think one other concept that is coming with that is how do you separate out storage and compute? Like, how do you do, and how are you guys seeing that separation of storage and compute in your world?
Um, I think that with the movement to cloud, that's already kind of happening.
Hmm.
So, for example, um, the data we are making sure that from an AWS perspective, we are storing in S3, so that storage is uh, definitely common across all of this ecosystem, and the compute will change based on the consumption or based on your problems you are solving.
Uh, Great. We and I cannot let a session complete in today's day and age without talking about Gen AI. So how are you seeing that's the new shiny toy on the block? How are you seeing that?
I think if you look in the industry, I think Gen AI has moved at the fastest pace of creating that disruption compared to most other technologies. Even digital took some time, but Gen AI, I think, created disruption much faster. And why not JP Morgan? We are investing very heavily when we think about how do we capitalize as trends by understanding the industry, but also learning from early adopters. Few AI focus areas: real time and streaming. That is important even for your Gen AI and LLMs. Is how do you think about personalization, accuracy, decision making, extended intelligence from human capabilities. How do we use AI assist? So when we think about it in our call centers, in our bankers, everywhere else, how do we think about how do we provide that AI assisted kind of capabilities, so that not only we can serve our customers better, but we can also help our team members such as bankers and our call centers, our advisors, by leveraging these capabilities. And of course, risk and fraud is another area where lots of these LLM capabilities will benefit us from.
One interesting thing is AI has been around for a very long time, and we have seen the evolution of AI. And you rightly said that Gen AI has captured the mind space much faster than any other tech has done. Why do you think that has happened? Like, why is Gen AI this the adoption, the mind space, the thought that we have heard has not happened with like a anomaly detection or like a simple machine learning model?
That's a really good question, Avinash. And I don't know why it has, but I can give you my perspectives.
Sure.
And my perspective is, I think definitely technology has evolved. Technology in general is moving at a much faster pace than what it would have been like 6 years or 8 years back. Now there's much faster innovation in the technology. And it's that intersection point where in fact, if you think about it, with this kind of technology, you are making it easier for non technical folks to do things. So it's coming in the mainstream. So think about it. Previously, if you have to solve something from a technology, you have to be real technologists to consume that technology. You have to really learn it. I think Gen AI and LLM has made it so easy for even less technical folks to leverage that technology or use that technology, think about how many people go and ask those questions to LLM. That itself shows you that now it's the hands of everybody, and it has come in the market and at the pace where it can be consumed and used by masses. That's why it's creating the disruption, because it's just making it easy to use. And you
Uh,
don't need to be a developer to uh, be exposed to LLMs or exposed to GenAI.
I think that's great because it has become like search in some ways, right?
Yeah,
You
it
can,
is.
yeah, yeah.
See, because it's just making it easy for everybody to use it.
As we wind this up, I'm going to ask you two questions that Gen AI might find hard to answer. So, what's the you have been in this role for a while and you've played this in multiple different places. And there are a lot of people in the audience who would want to hear, uh, get career advice from you, learn from your experiences. What are few things that you would want to tell to maybe a person who wants to be engineer, a data engineer, and somebody who is sort of graduating or gravitating towards a data leader type of career? What advice would you give to those people?
Um, so when you think about data leader, I'll go there first. Since we talked about change in technology and change in innovation, I would say and I think it's true for everybody, but leaders for sure. You should always be ready to embrace change and be adaptive. Think about the pace at which you and I just talked in the last 15-20 minutes, how much change is happening in the industry. It's constantly evolving change, and evolving change means technology is changing, how you leverage the technology is changing, how your organization goes through transformation is um, is a change. So how do you embrace a change? How do you gain those opportunities? And then you learn um, as a leader, how do you take your team along with you? Second, I would say is true for everybody is continuously learn and develop. Leadership or data engineering is a journey. It's not a destination. Invest in you, invest in your team, both professionally and personally. Understand and learn, because it's such an interesting age to be in. It's such an interesting time where you can learn so much by what is happening around you. So you need to continuously learn. As a leader, I would say you should also set your clear goals and expectations, so that you can not only provide that guidance to your team, but also continuously coach and train others and take them along with you in that journey.
This is great. I think it's completely out of time here. Anu, thanks for doing this with us. I'm sure there are so many nuggets of wisdom that we have heard in the last 20, 25 minutes that are going to stay with a lot of us forever. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you, Avinash. It was great to talk to you.
Thank you.
Wow, what a terrific lineup of speakers today. We hope you enjoyed the sessions, and thank you again so much for joining us for the Data Integration Summit. All of these session recordings will be available to watch again or share with your coworkers. To get more data integration best practices and to learn more about Nexla, check out our resources on nexla.com and contact us to set up a briefing with your team. You can do that on our website, or feel free to shoot us an email at demo@nexla.com. Thanks, and have a great rest of your day.